Hi, Stacie Capone. Nice to see you.
Nice to see you as well.
Anybody who's tuning into the YouTube will see that Stacie. We just talked about this before we clicked record. I'm having crazy camera envy. Stacey's like the whole framing is incredible. There's like a beautiful color pop. It kind of matches this little frame in the background. So if you're wanting some, a camera envy moment that is seen on a podcast, like go tune into the YouTube.
That would be thanks to my husband, who's also a DP and a director, and we did a little art in the background. We tried to
Yeah.
put the plant in the right place, which is really
Yeah.
funny.
It
Yeah.
really is aesthetically pleasing to my eyes. So thank you for doing that on a audio medium. Um,
I mean, you're recording visually as well,
this
so
is true. This is true. For anybody who does not know who are you today?
who am I today? Today, I am well, a new member of SAG-AFTRA as an actor,
Oh my God,
and
Mazel!
uh,
Congratulations.
thank you. Yes, I'm also now a Grey's Anatomy actor, which is very
Yes,
exciting.
you
Um,
are.
hence why I have to change my bio. And and producer. I'm always a filmmaker, creator. That is who
I,
I am.
I love it. Are you
And a
calling
dog
your?
mom.
Oh, say that again.
And a dog mom. Let's not forget
Which
dog mom.
No, which is arguably the most important hat of all of those hats, in my humble, also dog mom opinion.
Yeah.
It's like the only identity that will always be consistent. Have you
Yeah.
ever flown with your dog before? Is that a thing you've ever
Oh,
done?
yes, she flies with us all the time. She
Yeah.
actually got wings on her last flight from the flight attendant. He loved her so much, he gave her wings. Yes. She's gotten them twice now. I'm just gonna put a collection on her doggy backpack with her
Wait, like
airline
it's
name.
like a little wing pin?
Yeah, like how they give them to kids.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, I want Walter to get one. I'm flying with him, and the last time I did was when I had adopted him and we moved back from LA to New York, and this is going to be the first time I've flown with him in a couple of years. And so he's grown, I've grown, we've grown. So I'm anticipating it'll be some adventure. So it's a whole new world, really.
Yeah, Ethel just loves to. She just like kind of passes out, and she's like, "Cool, this is good. We're
Ethel
all
and Walter would be besties just because
together."
they're both old dogs in new dog bodies. I'm
Yes,
obsessed.
exactly.
Anyway, no one's here to talk about, I mean, I'm here to talk about dogs, but we
No,
could.
I mean,
With that said, I am so excited to jump into this conversation because I feel like you have done a lot of what I think I try to do also in my life, which is really try to foster and create community and to try and bring people together, especially like-minded folks, so that they
yeah,
can all make the things that they want to make and surround themselves with people that they collaborate well with and all of that. I'm curious, and what we can kind of start with like your philosophy on it and then go into the specifics of like what you do.
huh? Okay, yes, sure. My philosophy. I don't know that I have a philosophy, but
Okay.
I do think that it's very important to have a community,
Hmm.
and and I think that we all kind of grow together, and as we grow together, we achieve bigger and better things.
Hmm.
And like I'm kind of experiencing that right now. It's really interesting to watch the like the connections. Like I
Hmm.
just keep saying like wow, this world is I can't it's so small, and like
Yeah.
so you just kind of like watch your community grow with you.
Yeah.
Um yeah.
Well, let's double back for a sec. You are currently in LA. That's where you're based.
Yes,
And
currently.
arguably, it's a harder space to maybe cultivate communities in this capacity. Is
Sure.
that
I mean, I
where?
think that's
Go for
go
it.
ahead.
No, you
No,
go.
I was say I think that's what people think, and that could be true. I started in New York, and
Mhm.
so I cultivated my community in New York, and then as I got older, some of my people moved to LA. As I did other things, I met people that were in LA, and so before actually making the move to LA, I had been sowing a lot of seeds, and I
Got it.
would come out periodically to be like, "Oh, do I want to move here? No, I
Mhm.
love New York. Do I want to move here? I don't think so." And then one time where I wasn't thinking about moving out to LA, I realized that was the time that I was like, "Oh, we should maybe move to LA," because I
Mm,
started to see, like, the my connections out here were doing the things that I and my husband wanted to do. We have a production company together. Um, and so when we did actually make the move, I think it was easier because we had already sowed the seeds of community and we had built our community in New York, who then were like, "Oh, you should meet this person, this person, this person, this person. Let me connect you to all these people." And so
oh,
it was a easier, I think, transition.
I love that. Well, that's you have 2 major things that are like extension arms besides your, like
Mhm.
actor self, which is your production company and filmmakers. I'd love to
Yes.
talk about both.
Yes. Great. So my production company actually came out of being an actor. Um, we all go to school for, I mean, the people that go to school for theater often go to school for theater and are like, "Oh, I don't know." Okay, get out of school and you're like, "What? I don't know what to do now."
Mhm.
So I took more school. I took some film classes and was like, "I'm really interested in film." And then at this studio, I met my now husband, and who was also starting to get really interested in film. And we between the two of us, because he used to be part of a theater, I mean, he still is a theater community in New York. And I had my college roommates and things like that. We decided we started an actors group, which was called the Professional Actors Collective, or Proactive for short.
Mhm.
And of all these people that were very interested in making films, we would meet weekly. We would do some scene study, we'd do business, and then digital filmmaking was a thing and people could get a camera, and my aunt gave me a video camera, and we decided that because we all wanted to learn more about film, that we would make one film a month for a year. And so we made 11.
Wow.
I know, we were crazy. So
That's wow. Yeah, okay.
yes, when we did it, we made 11 short films in a year. We gave ourselves off November for good behavior, is what I'd like to say. And, some of them were crappy and some of them were pretty good, you know?
Were you doing this with a budget, or was this just like you would cobble together people's homes and people's stuff and just resourced?
It was all just, yes,
Mhm.
who like people would bring food, craft services. Somebody was like, "I have an office." Like one of our last films, she was like, "Well, I work in this office building. I can write a script for the office." Great.
Mhm.
And so we were able to use her office, so there was production value. But that is exactly what we did. We figured out like what each of us liked to do, or wanted to do, so we could try it out. And someone new from the group would write the script every week, or whatever, what every month, but
Yeah.
we were working on it the whole month. Someone would volunteer to edit. I think my husband actually learned how to edit as well doing these
Yeah.
because no one wanted to edit.
Yeah.
Also, no one wanted to do sound.
Yeah.
Uh, yeah, I learned that I was a really good producer.
Wow.
So, yeah, so we did that. We were actors, so we, you know, didn't submit any of them to film festivals. We just threw a party for casting directors at the end because, you know,
Great.
where we had sponsors. I mean, we had a beer sponsor, we had a bar. It was great. It was super
Amazing.
fun. Um, but out of that, there was another couple that had the same vibe, outlook on life that we really connected with, and we started a production company with them, and we went on to make um, a uh, a soap opera for your iPod video. So we can all know
Wow.
what year this was. So we made like one of the first interactive web series. We would put it up. It was on iTunes. People got to vote on what they wanted to see happen in the next episode, and we would make another episode. So it was called Pod Opera Brooklyn. It was
Say
fun.
it say it again. It was called what?
Pod Opera Brooklyn,
Wow.
because it was
Okay.
a soap opera for your iPod set in
Great.
Brooklyn.
Great.
Super fun, super fun. And then from that, we did some other little things, and then Nickelodeon found us on YouTube and had us come in and pitch. And so then we had to really, really have a company. Like we had a company and name, but then we like actually formed the production, the LLC, and did all of that stuff. And so from there, it's very interesting. like, people are always telling you, oh, just like leap and the net will appear, or like get yourself ready, or, envision, manifest, or whatever.
Mhm.
And literally, as soon as we made the LLC, then we started getting work.
Wow.
So I don't know what that tells people or makes people want to do, but
No, but it's
yeah.
helpful information, and it's also arguably you were doing all the things that you would have been doing in an LLC anyway prior to that. It's just the formality of it somehow gives a stamp of recognition or like approval for validation from other people, which is so strange.
Yeah.
It's like
Yeah.
the way in which people view talent is kind of similar. It's like unless you've gone to this school, somehow this is like like,
Yep.
validating it's like, none of that actually is true. You know? So,
Yeah.
yeah, cool.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
then how did filmmakers come to be?
So, because of, it's like all like little stepping stones, right? So
Mhm,
because we had this production company, because we made this, the woman that was also a director and actor and producer on the Pot Opera, who was part of our company, she we made this other project that she got us on a panel at South by Southwest to speak about, because what we made was an exquisite corpse project. So, which is, you pass along, like it was like an artist game where you would like fold paper up, and you would do like, one artist would make the head, fold it up so you couldn't see it, and like it would just like continue on, like it would build. Um and she had this idea, like we should make a film this way. So we made a featurette, a short, I don't know, whatever. We made like a 60-minute film. And we were on a panel at South by about this. And so then we're like, oh, South by Southwest is super cool. We can be on panels. And so we continued to be on panels. I don't know, we've been on four-ish panels, five-ish panels throughout the years.
mhm,
And in 2014, my husband had a panel there. And I heard Leah Meyerhoff, who is the head of Film Fatales, had a film there, and she was talking about Film Fatales. And I was like, this is a fascinating group. I love this idea. This is amazing. Um, and I, had my community around me, and I hadn't done that. Like, it was, so 8 years, I think, since I had made like the whole short films. So my group had like kind of disbanded, and we've done our own thing, and I kind of missed community. And I met some other awesome filmmakers that had just made short films, and we were like, oh, this is such a cool idea. Like, let's do this.
mhm.
Let's start a community again where it's women that are filmmakers, like creators, like female creators, and that could be in any, you don't have to just be a director, right? Like you
Right.
can be a writer, you can be an actor, producer. Like if I don't see myself as a director, but I do see myself as a creator.
Yeah.
So I think it was a great way to collaborate with other women. And so I was like, well, let's make this happen. Invite people that you think would be have a great conversation around a table. And so
Mhm.
we had 10 women at our first meeting in my Brooklyn apartment. And it was some women that I had never met, that other women knew. And there was writers, directors, producers, and actors, and combinations of all those things. And we were like, this is cool. Like we just had a discussion about women in film and
Mhm.
where they were. And this was in 2014. Um, and we decided that we couldn't take over the world in one night, so we needed to meet again.
Yeah.
so, so we did. So we met the next month and the next month, and it just kept meeting, and people would bring their friends until there was a point where it's New York. We can't fit more than 20 women
Wow.
in an apartment. So how do we curate the group in a way?
Mhm.
So people would still invite their friends, but what would happen is they would connect me to their friend first, and I would have a meeting with their friend, and we would discuss, and then we had like a whole thing, a whole system of wait lists and whatever. um, But what happened is I was able, like, I've met everyone that is a part of the group. So no one is a part of the group that hasn't met me. So I think like what's the fun, I don't know, unique, special thing about the group is that um it's very personal.
Yeah.
Like in because I've met people, like other people will go and have coffee together. Like it's like just like this kind of way of being.
Yeah.
I don't know if
Yeah, you
that makes
do.
sense.
You totally know. I
I
mean,
know.
it's absolutely. I think it's, it's kind of like-minded filtering in some way where you're just like, if you've come through this person, arguably we're probably going to get along and vibe, and so let's just filter that, and you're creating, and if this person likes this person and this person knows this person and they all get along, then you're curating this
Yes.
like-minded community um
Yes.
through the way
But
in which you're reaching out.
also, I think also like in a way, like I worked really hard, especially in the beginning with like the other women that were helping me start this group, to make sure that the group didn't feel clicky.
Mhm.
Like even though you're inviting your friends, like it's open to anyone.
Yeah.
And I think, and that was really important to me because I hated high school. I
Mhm.
hated cliques. Like, I was the weird girl that liked drama, that wore black and white stockings, right? So I didn't really fit in with the cheerleaders. I wasn't
Mhm.
cool, right? And so
Yeah.
I wanted to make sure that the group wasn't that, but that it was
Mhm.
a welcoming environment. So as long as you are actively making something happen in the industry and you'll put yourself out there, like meaning you'll make time to meet with me for coffee, you'll make time to help other women who will then make time for you. Cool.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, this is my larger question then is for you, and you've kind of touched on it. What is an ideal community for you creatively?
hmm I think it's a community of people that are helping one another grow, learn, and succeed, right?
Mhm.
Propping each other up. Um, I I have to say it's been so I just booked, like, as an actor, I just booked my first network television show. Um, and when that happened, I was like, I didn't realize, like, I have so many people that I want to tell, like so many
Mm.
people that have supported me
Mhm.
along the way. It was like, wow, it was so amazing. Like it feels so great to be, and then like to want to like tell those people and be like, you helped me. Like this is, thank you. This is amazing.
Yeah.
I mean, like I having like that's the kind of community that I hope everyone has and that
Yeah.
I want to continue to have. Like I want to be successful so that I can make my friends successful too.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like
It's
that's the goal.
definitely a philosophy that I share with you, and I think when we first were introduced, it was like, "Oh, this is why Heidi Marshall has connected us." It's
Yeah.
because yeah, I really, I think so many people, especially people who are not necessarily in the industry, there's this idea of the way in which things run or the way in which things operate, and looking in on it, it's like, well, how do you, when you aren't booking something and your friend does, how are you not jealous? Or
Yeah.
when somebody else, is more successful than you are, in a very large quotation mark, like how are you not feeling a certain way about it? And it's like, well, I have feelings clearly, and I also genuinely in my gut believe that like my friend's success is my success. A, because they're my friend and I want them to fucking succeed. But
Yeah.
also like if people who are if we're talking about it from like a tactile perspective, if people who are in my network and in my circle are succeeding, that is literally like just a step away from them either A, quote unquote, helping me down the line and vice versa,
Yeah.
or my circle is being seen for the work that they are doing, which means that the like-minded people are so close to me. I think these are all things that are really important to keep remembering when perhaps your moment hasn't come the way that you want it to, because the people around you, like those are your people. And if those people are working with people, then those people are going to be your people too, if you are all like-minded.
Yeah.
Um,
And it's so hard to remember that when you're
yeah,
in the moment. Like,
very
it's
much.
so hard. Like, it's so easy to just be like, "Oh, I suck. I'm never gonna get anywhere." Right? Like, because we all have that feeling and just so much. But then you have to go back to your community and be like, God, I'm having these feelings and like, I'm so happy that you booked this, but God, I feel like I suck. Like, can
Hmm.
we talk about it? Right?
Yeah,
And then they talk about it with you.
yeah,
I mean, I think you need to have those, and this, you know, for me, those are conversations that I want to have individually, like with my close friends, not things that I put out to the world
yeah.
normally. But if that's, you can have those conversations on Instagram if that's what helps you, right? But yeah, and seeing it in action, like I'm just this crazy small, like, so I booked this show, I got on set, I was like waiting, to go to wardrobe, whatever. I opened my Facebook and I see a post from a friend in New York talking about this new show, how amazing it is, and this amazing young actor. And I see his name and I was like, wait, I think he's playing my son today.
Yes.
And then I get on set, and then I had another friend post about the same show, and I was like, wait, and they didn't even know each other. And I was like, this is amazing. And then I get on set, and the director is like, yeah, I worked with this kid on this other show. And so, I had him audition because he's so amazing. And it's the same show. Like, it's like this
Yeah.
crazy circle.
Yeah. The world is really, really small in that way. Well, for people who are maybe, I don't know if the word is struggling to create or feel at a loss for creating or finding community, I
Mhm.
would love to kind of give from your lived experience and recognizing you're one single human being and people do this all different ways, but I'm curious about yours. That's why you're in this space right now. Is what are some ways that or tools or tricks or things that you have found to be helpful in either starting to find a community, creating a community from nothing? Like what would be some actual potential tricks and tools to cultivating finding these people and your people?
Yeah. Um, Hold on. I gotta like go to the Wayback Machine. Okay. How did this
Great.
start?
You can take all
Uh,
your time that you need.
so I think it just has to start with one person. Like,
Mhm.
that's all it needs to start with, right? Like, so you have a friend and you guys both find, I don't know, bunnies hilarious. You're like, I think
So
bunnies,
so niche, so niche, but, like, I'm here for it. Let's go there. Yes, bunnies are adorable. Great.
and you're like, we should make something about bunnies.
Great.
And so you do. And then you start showing it to people, and somebody else also loves bunnies. And you're like, oh, well, come on, let's make another thing about bunnies. Let's make something different. What do you like about them? And so you bring that person in. And then and you start talking. I think that's the key is, I mean, actors do usually love to talk about what they're doing, I think, but like talking to people about what you're doing, because you never know, somebody in the grocery line, you're waiting for the Trader Joe's really long line in New York and whatever. I think it's kind of like observing and listening. And if someone talks to you, maybe talk back to them instead of being like, you're a weirdo, why are you talking to me?
Mhm.
Um,
Mhm.
engage with the outside world. And then you may find something in common. And I think like that's how you start to build your community.
Do you feel
And
like it has to be from, like, the start of, like, you and I both like bunnies and we found each other, now we have to create something about bunnies? Or, like, how can we make it less about the creation? Like, what happens if it's more like, how do we just, like, sit in a room and vibe? How do we get there and talk about bunnies in a room? Or should we be looking for things that have to do with, like, what is coming down the pipeline?
so I don't you don't necessarily have to have a project right now, but if you want to be a creator, like if this
Mhm.
is for artists that want to create, then you should have something that you're excited about something that you're like itching to do.
Mhm.
And if you like, I feel like you connect with people that like the same things or want to achieve the same things. So, how can you help one another achieve those things? And yes, that could be talking about the things. You don't have to actually do them. Maybe you just talk about them and then you go off and do them on your own or in this other weird way with other people. But if I'm talking to you about, oh my God, I really want to make this film about bunnies, and you're like, yeah, I love bunnies. I don't really want to make a film about bunnies, but you know, Shelly, she just said she wanted to. Maybe I
Mhm.
should connect you.
Mhm.
And then you say yes. Say
Mhm.
yes. Yes, I would love to take that. I would love to connect with that person.
Yeah.
Sure. Even if you're like, I don't know, I heard weird things about Shelly. Why not try? Say yes.
Well, that would be my next question is in terms of like the connecting of people, right? So many people forget that they know people. Like
Yeah.
as in people don't realize that just because a person isn't again, like we're talking about all these things very relatively. So I just want to like mention that. Like just because somebody isn't from an objective perspective or like a subjective perspective, like quote unquote successful, or you see them on names of things, people forget that people who are doing the thing on the ground floor are still doing the thing. And also A, you never know what people become, and B, you never know their creativity, and C, you never know how you'll work together, all those things. Anyway,
Yeah.
people forget their circle, and they forget that they have amazing people in their circle. How do you find to be successful for yourself in terms of either reconnecting with those people in your life who perhaps you haven't been as in touch with,
Mhm.
or connecting people that you have been with other people who maybe could know them?
Okay, let's see. Part A. I am not the best at reconnecting with people, and actually, that's something that I'm working on.
Mhm.
And uh, want to talk to one of my friends that part of my community that is, I think, amazing at that. And I
Yeah.
actually said last week, I really need to meet up with so and so because I want to get better at keeping in connection
Yeah.
with other people that I maybe feel are above me, but in my same circles. Um, so working on that. And the other part was connecting other people. Wait, say your second part
Yeah,
question.
the other part is, like, connecting people that you know with other people who should probably know who they are, or,
Right.
like, they would collaborate well together.
Yeah. I I mean I don't I have I have like a superpower that I just remember things. So that's my memory is my superpower. So
Mhm.
if I meet someone and they, you know, tell me that they love bunnies, I'll remember that Shelly also loves bunnies and I'm going to connect them because why not?
Yeah.
Like to me, isn't it I want all of the people that I think are cool to know all of the other people that are like I want all the cool people to know each other. It's
Yeah.
just so much more fun when we're all together, right? When we
Yeah.
all know each other. Like, "Oh my gosh." So, and I haven't really had anyone been weirded out by that, or I mean, I
Mhm.
guess it's like I feel like maybe sometimes people will um I don't know if I want to introduce those people because what if they don't like each other or something? I don't know. I don't see why introduce each other. I
Yeah.
like and it's like email.
Mhm.
Ask. I often will ask first, and people will ask me like, "Hey, I have this cool friend. This is like a little bit about her. I think you guys would get along. Can I introduce you?" And I've never had anyone say, "Absolutely not."
Mhm.
Everyone else is always like, "Yeah, cool, great, let's do it."
Yeah. I think
And then
it's
I
more
think,
like the next step of, like, once a connection is made, then, like, the moves to do the thing is really where you're out of the weeds now, and it's up to other people, but that, then that isn't your issue anymore,
right,
I
yes,
guess.
Yes.
Yeah, like you've done your part. You're like, "Here I am. I'm match made, and we're calling it a day."
Another great thing though to do, which is one of the other women from the group had started this, is three-person coffee dates.
Mm,
You can be like, "Oh my god, I would love for Shelly and Michaela to meet each other. I'm gonna invite them both to coffee. Hey, you guys want
mhm.
to have coffee? Cool." And then you're there to break the ice.
Yeah.
And yeah,
I love that. Me and a friend of mine we're trying to do a similar thing, of, like, hosting a Shabbat dinner with a bunch of, like, badass women who live in New York and just trying like, each of us have to, like, bring another person that we other person doesn't know so that, like, by association, you have, like, a whole group of people there. Um, and I'm really excited about it because it's a way of going back to what we were talking about, like, meeting like-minded people and people that I don't necessarily know, but if we're vouched for because of these other people, I'm clearly going to probably vibe with them. Hold, please. I feel like it's like plane central up in here, like literal planes, and, like, I keep muting myself to try to minimize this, but I don't know where everybody's escaping to. What was I saying? Uh, yeah, and the goal then of, like, really trying to expand organically the people that I'm surrounding myself with. Um, I think the thing that I guess this is, like, a vulnerable, thing for myself is, like, the imposter syndrome of it all sometimes comes into play. And we were kind of touching on this a little bit. And you mentioned it actually in the phrasing where you're like somebody who's above you. And I guess I want to just chat about that. Right. And we can have a little heart to heart about it. From my perspective, it's even for this, I've been like reaching out to people who are quote unquote above me in terms of wanting them to be guests on this podcast and the arguably the gatekeeping or the
yeah.
inability to even reach the person that I'm wanting to get in touch with to have as somebody to just simply talk to for a conversation is so difficult because of the level that they're playing and to not go into a spiral of like, well, I guess they're beyond me in terms of like, I can't talk to somebody because I'm not worthy of it, like all of the things that would play into it. And then trying to remember it's not about that at all. This is like the things that I'm telling myself. But how do you combat those voices in your head when there is somebody perhaps that you're like, I really want to be connected to this person. I love what they're doing. I think they're so cool and badass. And I actually feel like we're like-minded people. How do we collaborate? How do I get there when that feels overwhelming for you?
Uh, I turned to my community, quite frankly. Like, I was literally yesterday, we were having this exact conversation about imposter syndrome with some friends
Mhm.
who are, one of them is also in the industry, um, yesterday.
Mhm.
It's it's having those conversations with your friends to be like, "Yeah, but you are great. No, seriously."
Mhm.
Like, and we all feel like we all have those voices in the back of our heads. And I think it's like saying those voices, what they're saying out loud to your friends or to whoever your person is, so
Mhm.
that they can be like, because hopefully they'll be like, well, that's not true. Great. I'm glad you said it out loud, but that's not true. You should really be saying this. And I think that's the importance of community, is to
Mhm.
have those people that have your back, that think that you're awesome, even when
Mhm.
you don't think you're awesome, to remind you that no, 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 you're awesome.
Yeah. Are you conversing with these people via text, via FaceTime, via coffee dates? How are you meeting and chatting?
I mean, yesterday was in my backyard because they came over for some yummy cake that I made.
Yes.
It was just like a conversation that just
Mhm.
like that's what came out of the conversation that we were having, because it, I don't know. We were talking about life, what we're doing. I think, you know, being an artist is not a straightforward path.
Yeah.
right? It's not like, okay, so I go to school for 4 years, and then I go to this school for 4 years, and then I intern here for 2 years, and then I get this job, and then I get this job, and then I get this job. Once I just move up the ladder, and this is how you do it. Well, that's not, everyone has their own way of getting there. Trust
Yeah.
funds are helpful, but we don't all have them. Uh, I
Amen.
don't know. Wish I did. Don't. Um, so sometimes you're just like, I've thrown all this stuff at the wall. Nothing is working. I
Yeah.
must be terrible. So you have to have those conversations with your people to be like, well, no. Oh, also, what if you tried it this way? I
Mhm.
never thought of that. I think like that's the what I love about, to go back to filmmakers, is that it's all different perspectives in a room,
Mhm.
because we're not just all actor producers, we're not just all writers, we're not all directors, we're all different things. And so the way an actor producer solves a problem is different than a writer or a director. And so having the discussions in the room with the different perspectives, you can be like, I've tried everything. And someone is like, oh, well, actually, you know what? I did this thing and it worked for me.
Mhm.
You're like, oh,
Yeah.
because it's not the way I think.
Right. Right. Are you all still meeting now? So clearly you're not in Brooklyn. Clearly you don't have your apartment there. Clearly you're not meeting in person in Brooklyn. What are you all doing to continue maintaining and
Right.
cultivating filmmakers?
So filmmakers meets online. We've been meeting online mostly since the pandemic happened. We when I left New York, there wasn't a pandemic, and I'd been hosting this in New York for so long that I had people, and so they knew the format, and so it just kind of was easy to keep doing it every month. So it's a monthly salon, and in LA, we were meeting in person, and then pandemic happened, and so I worked with one of my like right hand women to come up with a plan, and who was helping me run New York at the time. And I was like, well, I don't want to, like, what do we do? Like, I don't want to lose the group. Like, I don't want to let them down. Like, I feel like this is a time where we really need community. What can we do? Yes, let's do it on Zoom, but also I don't want it to just be like one-sided. Like, so I the one of the uh perks, I don't know, one of the special things about filmmakers is that the last whatever 45 minutes or so, half an hour, was always saved for the women to mingle and get to know one another. And so I wanted to make sure that we somehow still had that element on
Mhm.
Zoom, which is hard to have like big groups talk, like
Yeah.
what do you do? And so we came up with a format that we would do little breakout sessions throughout the like two in the evening, that would have a like an icebreaker question, but it was like something that had to do with the topic. And so like five women would go in a breakout session for 5 minutes, and they would have a little talk. But I that led to, which is what the ending of filmmakers was leading to, oh, I connect with you because you like that same film. I loved that film. Oh my gosh, this is so cool. I'm going to go see this film. Do you want to see it with me?
Mhm.
I mean, obviously, we weren't doing that during the pandemic, but watch parties or something.
Yeah.
But it allowed people to get a glimpse into their personal life, their likes, their hopes, their dreams, whatever, the way they're broken. I don't know, and be like, oh, yes, I feel that. Okay, we should meet later, even if it was like, let's do our own Zoom, and it happened. So we're still kind of meeting online, because it keeps going in waves. We've had two like in-person meetings again, both still happening like separately in New York and LA. We did like a screening of each other's works,
Amazing.
and we did like a little, holiday end of year party. Um, but yeah, hopefully eventually we'll get back to in-person meetings. But what's nice about Zoom is New York and LA got to meet each other.
Yeah. Yeah, and now you're not siloed in the 2 coasts. And
Yeah.
if people are traveling for work and they're, still wanting to they're on set somewhere in middle of nowhere, they can still tune in if they wanted to. I think that is the beauty of the virtual space that I think people are still holding on to in the best of ways, where we
Yeah.
are all connected when if we want to be in that capacity.
Right. Right.
Um, have I'm curious, and I mean, I kind of know the answer, but I want you to talk about it. Um, in terms of the people who have met from filmmakers, what are some of the collaborations that you're most proud of in terms of people and the way in which they've worked together?
Yeah. I mean, like one of the very exciting things is that so this happened when I was still in New York. I had met this young girl who came to me from someone else. I mean, she was like, I don't know, early 20s then, maybe mid 20s. Time goes by so quickly when there's a pandemic. And she was a writer, director. She was telling me about her feature that she had just written. And then I had done an LA meeting. Like, I think it was before I actually lived here. LA meeting is when I was just trying it out. And there was a producer in LA that was looking for a very specific film. She was like, I need a female focused, young adult horror genre film. And my superpower memory was like, ding, ding, ding. Wait, I should connect these women. And now you can watch Student Body on like Apple and all the streaming
Yes.
things. It's like they made a whole feature film in like 2 years that had distribution, that had like amazing actors, that I mean, crazy. And actually, another woman producer writer also joined that film. So it was like two producers from filmmakers, a writer, and yeah, director. So
I love
amazing.
that.
But and like there are those stories all the time. Like there's a guest speaker who's a composer. It's a female composer. She was one of our guest speakers, and she she said to me after she was a guest speaker, she's like, "This was amazing. Can I join the group? Like, I know I'm not technically a filmmaker, but I would love to be part of this group." And I said, yes. I thought about it and I was like, why not? You are creating something. You're creating music. You're writing. Like, sure.
Yeah.
Why not? Um, so there's many things to learn from that. Always ask for what you want because someone may say yes and say
Mhm.
yes. Um, and she has gone on to do so many people's projects. So
Wow.
many. Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, yeah, in my mind, I'm like, we always need that as like a final element for a film. So we, of
Yeah.
course,
Yeah.
clearly.
But she's the only composer as really that's part of the group.
Wow.
But because she asked, and I was like, sure, like what? Okay,
Yeah.
what could be bad? Let's try it.
Well, for people who are interested in perhaps joining the community, what is the process nowadays?
So it's all word of mouth. People still introduce me to their friends, their people, and I still set up a coffee, whether it's virtual or in person, and we meet and we chat about your projects. We learn about each other, see if we're a good fit, see if we vibe in the same way, and that's it. Yeah. So people are always free to reach out to me and be like, "Hey, I heard about your group. This is interesting. I'd like to learn more." Cool.
Well,
Great.
what within your boundaries is the best way for people to do so, whether that's like email or social or any of that?
Yeah. I mean, people can certainly reach out. We have a FilmmakeHers Instagram. People can certainly reach out on that. Um,
And we'll put that in the show notes as well, so people will have
yes,
that.
yes. And then my email inbox does get a bit full, but if you know me, you can email me.
Great, that's
No,
why I ask within people's boundaries because
yeah.
you never know, how people want to be
Yeah.
communicated with, especially
Yes.
in the
Yeah.
overwhelmed days.
Yes. I mean, and if you know me and you're like, oh, my friend is going to be perfect, I'm going to email you first and be like, hey, can I email intro you? And I'm going to always say yes.
Yeah.
So, but it may take me a little while to get back to people because sometimes you never know what your month is going to be like.
Yeah, and what exactly are you working on currently with your production company, or what are some of the things in the pipeline or
Um, well, we have some fun projects. We've been working with the Skim, which is a really cool, like female focused company. So we have some really cool projects coming out with them soon. We also have two features in development. Um,
Okay.
yes, and then I have like a third one that I'm writing someday. It'll happen. It's in my head. I've been writing it forever in my head.
Great.
I'll put it down soon. But we do have two features that are like hopefully going to go very soon. They're very fun.
It's so
Yeah,
exciting.
yeah,
Um,
yeah.
Before we wind down our time, is there
Mhm.
anything that is on your heart or anything that we haven't talked about that you wish that we did talk about that you wanted to express?
Huh. Um, hmm. I don't know. I feel like
Or let me rephrase, is there
yeah.
something that you wish that you knew when you were starting out,
Mhm.
specifically from the lens of, cultivating community and creating that space for yourself that you wish you knew sooner or that you wish you tried or that you wish you
Mm.
had access to?
Um, I mean, I think going back to the thing I just said is, which I tell people this, and I try to do this. Sometimes it's hard, but we should remember that we should always ask for what we need or what we want or what we're looking for, and that's I incorporate at the end of all of our meetings. Everyone can have an ask, so that people get into the mind frame of asking for what they want, because people will help you. I
Mhm,
think, but like being like I'm very independent. I'm a Leo. I'm stubborn. I don't like to show weakness. So sometimes you think that you equate that with like asking for help.
mhm.
Um, and so I think it's okay to ask for help. And sometimes it's hard to remember that that's it's a good thing, right?
Yeah.
And we shouldn't feel bad about it. We shouldn't feel bad about needing help.
How do you cultivate that muscle for yourself?
Hmm. Yes. Um, Practice. Practice. Um, it's it's well, it's also hard, like being seen as a leader, right? Like it took me a very long time to be like, okay, I guess I'm a leader. I guess I am fine. It took me a long time to like be able to step into that space. Um, and but then like it's also there's all you also I think inevitably there's a little bit of a distance then, like that because you're the leader, right? So you also have to present, or you think
Mhm.
you have to present in a certain way, and so people off don't always realize that like I also need help. I mean, I have my close friends that know that, right? So I think
Yeah.
it's and you have to be okay with asking, which can be really hard.
Yeah. As a fellow abashed leader, like, I think, um, yeah, it's a lot of responsibility that you feel is placed on you, but also that perhaps you place upon yourself because you want to lead in a certain way, and I very much relate to that sentiment, and it's been something that I will probably continue wrestling with for the rest of my life in terms of not feeling like a burden, not feeling like I'm, um, making somebody else's life really hard by asking them for something. I think the reframe that I've been really trying very hard to lean into is that, like, just because I've asked doesn't mean they have to say yes. And so there isn't, and then that falls on them if they're unable to set their own boundaries, and that's a whole other conversation that they're navigating. But for myself, me simply asking for what I need doesn't mean that A, I'm gonna get it, and
Right.
B, that somebody else is gonna give it to me the way I want it if I do get it. And I have to be okay with all of that, but the asking part of it is something that I can do for myself. And then frankly, the receiving of the no or the different type of response is also a yes in some weird way.
Yeah. Yeah. Like how do you take that in, right?
Yeah.
How do you yeah, are you gracious when someone says, "Well, I can't do that." Well, okay, that's cool. Like, great, thank you. I'm going to move on as opposed to what is wrong with them?
Or what is wrong with me, right? If you're the somebody
Or
who, like, flips it back on yourself, like, why didn't they wanna choose this? Why didn't they wanna work with you? Why didn't they like this? You
yeah.
know, I again, it's practice. I'm not necessarily practicing what I'm preaching all the time, but it is
Yeah.
something that I'm actively trying to, work on for myself, which is, yeah,
Yeah.
when you do the ask, it doesn't mean that's the thing, not
Yeah.
anything that comes after it. Um and
Yeah.
holding it as its own. But that's really cool that you give that space for people because it is a muscle like anything else. And frankly, as women specifically, we are not taught to do that. If anything, we're taught out of doing that.
Yes. 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 And I remember like our first meetings, it was like no one is allowed to say you're sorry. No one.
Mhm. Yeah.
We had a Canadian. I'm like, stop it. Stop saying you're sorry.
She's like, "It's literally a system thing. I don't even know I'm doing it." Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
I'm like, no, because if this was a bunch of dudes, no one would be. I mean, it's very stereotypical of me, but you know what I mean.
Yeah. Yeah, I
Like,
got you.
we all have to take our space, and
Yeah. I think that's wonderful advice. And also something that is something we can continue cultivating. It's not something that it will necessarily be fixed tomorrow, but I think in conjunction with A, asking for what you need or want, and B, doing so with people that you potentially want to spend your time with and work with, it's a twofer if it works.
yes, yes, and not feeling bad. I think like that was that was one of the things that I kind of ended up having to not feeling bad about asking for it. Like people would be like, okay, I'm going to ask for this thing, but then I'm going to say that I can also give you this if I'm going to give you this. I'm going to offer, which is great. Offers are lovely. I love people helping one another, but you can just ask for something without having to feel bad about it. Like,
Yeah.
just be okay with it.
Yeah. There was something that I heard recently on a podcast that was like um, a life hack or whatever. It was just like ask for what you want and then breathe for 10 seconds. And in those 10 seconds, instead of being like, this is why, and here's a, and then you like talk yourself out of it, you're like giving the
Always.
opportunity for another person to respond, even though you're probably like wanting to bite your tongue off of your mouth because you're like holding your breath the entire time in those 10 seconds. But that practice of here's the ask, and you hold for really long
Love it.
time.
That is exactly, exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then you let it sit and the energy shifts or it doesn't. I'm so grateful for you for popping on here and chatting. I am going to be emailing you about filmmakers.
Fabulous. We should do that.
I will. And I think it's awesome what you're doing. And clearly, this is something that's so a part of like your ethos on this planet and the way in which you exist as an artist and collaborator. And it's really amazing that you're giving other artists the space to find that for themselves too. So thank you for that. And thank you for
Thank
being in
you.
this space.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah.